they want to come for lessons, they go to the same place. If they want to do revision, then they will also be able to find things in the same place. Okay, so that's for the part on experience. Then I think the third one that I want to talk about, which will also help, I think, tutors and tuition center owners, if there are any one of them here, to also consider and help yourselves answer the question of which technology platform is best for you, right? And that really would be think about outcomes. Okay, what is your goal? It ties in very closely with your business brand. Okay, what is your brand? Yeah, what is your brand? I mean, this must be at the mind of every educator entrepreneur out there, regardless of the scale of business that you run. Okay, because at the end of the day, why would a parent or a student choose to come to you to let them be their tutor rather than, say, the other tuition center 2 doors away, or another tutor who has advertised themselves on Facebook or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So think about your brand, and then think about what's your value proposition. And tied into that, it would be, what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve, right? So when you think about it in terms of outcomes, you would then think about effectiveness. Okay, so we talked a lot about like the efficiency earlier on. Then we now have to consider effectiveness, because I think at the end of the day, being passionate, dedicated educators, we want our teaching to be effective for our students. We want our students to learn effectively. So what constitutes teaching effect? What will contribute to teaching effectiveness and learning effectiveness? I think in a physical, so going back again to the physical environment, because we know that parents and students compare a lot between physical and the online experience, right?
Yes.
So go back again to the physical experience and think about what is it that you feel in a physical environment really helps with you teaching effectively, and then trying to look for platforms that can help to replicate that or support that or facilitate that. So things like, when you are in a physical environment, we don't just show and explain to students. We don't just write on whiteboards, right? If we are doing private tuition, we don't just sit down and just write and solutions to show to our students, or we don't
like a
just
Q&A machine.
correct.
We don't just do that.
We will do that if we are like polytechnic lecturers like yourself, Jason. We will do
No,
that.
I do more than that in classroom.
Yeah, of course, I'm
too.
sure you will do more than that. Okay, but so that's you wearing your hat as when you're in a lecture. When you're in a big scale lecture, when you're in a webinar, yes, there is a time and space for that kind of teaching delivery for sure, and for that kind of teaching outcome. Right? Because you're trying to teach something at scale to as many people as possible. And therefore, that delivery is usually one way.
Yeah.
But then again, go back to why is it that people would want to hire a tutor in the first place? If they want to hire a tutor, they are most likely not flourishing in a very one-way, large-scale kind of classroom delivery experience. Because there are students whose learning styles are different, there are students whose learning needs are different, and their learning pace is different. And that's the reason why they are asking for tutors to be more flexible in adjusting and adapting how they teach to these individual students' needs. So then I think, teachers really just really need to think about how do they effectively teach to their paying clients, customers, okay, who are not looking for a large-scale lecture-style delivery. There will be a time and space for webinar-style teaching, and that's fine. That's okay. You can continue with that. But there will be students who really need that help, that personal approach, that personal touch. How do you deliver that in an online space? You can't just do screen share. I will just put it up right front. If you just do screen share to these students, what I've heard from my clients is that, and I have one of them who tells me basically that if I continue doing it just like that on Zoom, every single one of my Zoom lesson, my teaching effectiveness drops by more than half. Very simply, he just shared that, for very simple reasons, okay? He said that only the students can see what I'm writing. I can't see what they're writing.
Yeah.
In an online space, if I'm using Zoom or Skype or Google Meet, I wouldn't be able to know what they're writing. I don't even know whether they are writing and copying notes, or they're just doodling something on their pieces of paper, or maybe they're not even really doing something writing. Now, of course, you can say that you can always get the students to type messages into chat, but he personally felt that that was not effective as well, because he's a math tutor. He said, how do I get my students to type in like everything? All the step-by-step working. I'm not just checking for solutions at the end of it. I'm also checking for the bar model. I'm checking for the step-by-steps workings, right? To make sure that
maybe the thinking behind the every step.
Exactly. So I think for him, he really thought through these kind of questions. So when he shared it with me, it became very clear to me as well that I think this is something that many teachers can adopt and basically just observe really the needs of the students that will determine your teaching effectiveness and their learning effectiveness. Other things that people have shared with me very often, especially at the end of teaching for 7 months, and I would say most teachers actually just use Zoom, right? At the end of the day, when they come to me and they would ask me things like, if like the problem that I mentioned earlier, I don't know what I can't even get my students to write a solution for me to see online. So sometimes that is one problem. Like in a physical classroom, right? When you teach, you can always get a student to come to the whiteboard. And then you can get the student to demo and then you can check. If not, you can give out class exercise on the spot. And then you can get the students to do all their work on the hard copy worksheets. And then you'll be able to walk over to their desk and pop over the shoulders and basically check on their work, right? But in an online space, they would ask me, how do I do that? If I can't do that, then I wouldn't know what they're doing and whether they really understand it or not. So that I think that is one challenge that teachers always find that is very difficult to bridge. And I think the last thing that a lot of online teachers had, one of the top bugbears is always that because it's on screen, they don't know whether the students are actually paying attention to their screen.
Exactly.
Yes. So these are all very important factors to consider, and they are really the top bugbears, I would say, of online tutors in the last 7 months. And I think that, I would say that you know exactly what your pain points are based on the current platforms that you're using. So therefore, when you look at how you're going to continue teaching next year, don't just continue living with the pain points. Don't constrain your brand and your value proposition by just sticking with the same technology that is causing you those pain points. Really look for alternative solutions before the next academic year starts. Okay.
Will the audience, let's say if audience, they have some questions regarding like their pain points, right? Can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure, fair. Definitely.
Okay.
Sure. They can reach me at my work email address or my mobile number, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn as well if they're on LinkedIn. And I think maybe
We'll share that later.
one of you can share that on the chat or something later on. Yeah.
So if you are listening there out there, if you want to contact Carol to talk about your pain points and how to address these pain points in your practice and your business, later we will share her contacts after the Q&A session. So do take note and get in touch with Carol. So I also want to add in a point, because I myself have been doing online tutoring for since 2016. So I think what I observe is that one of the pitfalls is that people try to duplicate or replicate their physical classroom into the online classroom. So they don't go and think through, is it going to work? how does it feel like, right, to look at a computer screen for 90 minutes? They
Mm.
just think that, oh, physically we do it for 90 minutes. Then when we move online, we also 90 minutes. Physical classroom, we got 20 students. So online, I also have 20 students. And I think educators, if like us, right, we probably have seen some sharing. I remember when the circuit breaker just started, okay, tuition centers are all locked down, right, all closed down. I saw this video being circulated around that this lesson was being videoed, I don't know by who, but this Zoom lesson. So one teacher was teaching about 20 students, and the lesson just go like the teacher just keeps scrolling the screen on Zoom, just keep scrolling. And every student, the teacher was trying very hard to monitor the expression of every kid. I think it's an English lesson. So you can just see the teacher just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And then the kids were most of them just looking quite stunned. Like they don't know what is happening. They don't see other students because one screen you can only see that many faces. So they also don't know what their classmates are doing. So many things that we take for granted in classrooms really have to be rethink through. And sometimes the solution or the outcome that we want may not be achieved through the same way, or it may not be the same outcome that we want. In the past, a big classroom, we want compliance, we want obedience, right? Everybody just keep quiet, take notes. But when you move everything is to online, maybe it's not such a good idea to just get everybody to sit down there and listen to you. Maybe it's better to record a video or stuff like that, and flip your classroom. So
Definitely, I think digital pedagogies need to catch up.
Yes.
I think there are just different components of this entire ecosystem. If we look at it as a system on how we change, how do we transform education, right? So there is always the technology platform about it, of course, and there are many solutions out there. But please be savvy enough to know there is a difference in technology platforms. The one big fundamental technology platform differences is always to know which are the video conferencing platforms and which are the remote learning classroom platforms. Video conferencing platforms are primarily meant for businesses lah. Then of course there's the thing about digitalization of resources, like what Jason mentioned just now. You just can't expect the things that you do in a physical space to be exactly replicated online. So it's not as if like the same worksheet that you produce for your student in the physical space, right? You can just upload them as is online and then just teach from there. You have to remember that maybe students are on smaller screen sizes, therefore the worksheets need to have more space in order for you to write online and for them to also write online. Then there is also digital, digital pedagogies as well. So how you teach in a physical space, yes, you can be talking and it's fine in a physical space. You try to do that for the online space, you will lose your students quite fast. So one of the best practices that we always advise clients is chunk it down. Chunk your lessons down to like 15 minutes, 10 minutes block. So you can do 15 minutes of like the more like one-way teaching, and then after that you need to plonk in like maybe a poll or something like a checkpoint quiz, or then assign them some form of exercise. So in class 2, we actually can support both the teacher issuing an online worksheet for all students to work on for that 10 minutes, and the teacher can even monitor. Even in a group class, the teacher can monitor one by one each student what the student is writing on screen. Alternatively, if it's a printable, downloadable worksheet, then yes, that same 10 minutes, the students are writing on their own worksheet, and on class 2, they can also monitor what their students are writing on their hard copy page through the online classroom. So definitely chunk it down. Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that throughout the world, right, the digital virtual classroom platform is really trying to evolve very, very fast to suit the needs. And not everybody is doing that. Some are just they are just mainstream platforms for maybe conferencing, and some are purpose-built for interviewing. So you can't use, like, for example, what we are using now is StreamYard. So you can't use a StreamYard to conduct a lesson. That would be really, really awkward. But what I can say is that some of the things that you mentioned, I don't even know that how to use that in class 2, because you guys are evolving so fast, and new features sometimes I receive a text in the morning from you, very excited. Oh, Jason, we released this thing. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to learn that. I'm gonna I'm gonna log in and try to figure it out. Yeah, there was once I went in and then I couldn't find how to I couldn't find my file. So I was like meandering around. Then the student was like looking at me, waiting for me. Yeah, so I really think that, yeah. So advice for anyone of you out there, really be familiar with your platform. So that's what I can say.
I think keep
Yeah.
abreast with technology lah. Technology
Yes.
moves exponentially, and technology responds very nimbly to
Yes.
users' needs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Carol, I want to ask you, right? I know that Class 2, okay, has recently been nominated for SGIT Tech Leader. Wow, that's a mouthful.